making the decision and being firm in it is something I want to do. I don't want to be the guy who flips. I hate that stuff because I don't want people to be all bought in on me, and I want to be sure of it. Kind of like you said, though, me having that advantage since October of my sophomore year. I mean, I think this is a pretty normal timeline that people get to make a decision. So while it might look early compared to signing day, I still feel like I've thought through and I've done what I need to feel confident about my decision.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank. If you're thinking about starting a business or know someone who is, check out Emprise Bank's SBA loans. It's always good to know your options, and they can be your partner in possible.
Hello, and welcome back to the post-holiday version of the Verbal Commitment Podcast here on the Kansas City Sports Network, brought to you by Home Field Apparel. I'm Kevin Flaherty, and I'm here with Ryan Wallace from GoPowerCat.com and 24/7 Sports, and we're talking about the world of local recruiting from Kansas and Kansas City prospects to the college classes at Kansas, Kansas State, and Missouri. JJ Dunnigan, our pick for the top 2026 player in the state of Kansas, made his college choice earlier today. We'll be breaking that down. And Hunter Higgins, 24/7 Sports' number 4 player in Kansas in that same 2026 class, is rapidly approaching his own decision here in a couple weeks. We'll have him on the show here shortly to break down his junior season and his impending commitment, set to arrive. As always, if you like what you're hearing, tell your friends about us, subscribe, hit that like button, and leave us a 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts, like Apple or Spotify. All those things help us to grow the show and put us in front of more people like you. Ryan, we're shooting this here on January 2nd. Portals slowed down just a little bit. Christmas and New Year's have both come and passed since our last episode. So, how have you been?
Well, I'm healthy again. That's good. Now, I had the infamous, it's floating through the house now. My wife's got it, but the head cold near strep. I think we're approaching strep season now. So, yeah, I feel a lot better. Happy to be home. There's a lot of traveling. We were in Wichita. We were in St. Louis. Now we're back here in Kansas City. Happy to be home. Happy to kind of get the new year rolling. And for parents out there, you understand what I mean when I say get a routine back in our lives. Need the routines, Kevin.
You got to have the routine. That's important for us as people,
Yeah.
For you, especially as parents, and also important for recruits who are trying to get themselves at the highest level. And to that end, Ryan, can we flash the alarm?
Let's do it. Here we go.
All right. In this case, the dramatic shift in lighting comes as Manhattan High School's JJ Dunnigan made his commitment to Kansas, part of the Under Armour Next All-America game played earlier today, a commitment he pretty much immediately celebrated by picking off a pass in the game. Ryan, quite the pickup for the Jayhawks.
Yeah, and I think we've got the clip of JJ from the game. I thought maybe we could run it here because there's an interesting part of it, Kevin, that you and I picked up on that maybe we can touch on here.
Sure.
First and foremost, I want to thank God for all the blessings in my life for making this moment possible. To all my family back in Kansas, thank you for your constant love and support. Kansas, thank you for cheering me on. It's been an honor to be able to represent our state. And with all that being said, I'll be committed to Kansas University.
Rock shot. Very good. Why Kansas?
Man, we're building something special there, and I'm going to have the ability to play both ways. Dad, how we feeling?
Hey, my son's making his own path. He's doing his own thing, so I'm going to let him do it.
Awesome. Congratulations.
So there it is, Kevin. And the part that you and I picked up on immediately was him saying that I will have the chance to play both ways. That was something that I don't think you and I even had kind of heard about or saw coming, right?
Yeah, and it's funny, Ryan, for those of you who are, regular watchers of this podcast. Of course, we had JJ on our last episode, and I jokingly asked him about Travis Hunter, saying, hey, as a DB who plays wide receiver in high school, how much would you like to play both ways? And he was like, oh, I'd love it. He was a little coy with it, but yeah. He did not come out and say, Ryan, colleges are recruiting me to be able to do that. I think that adds a really interesting angle to this for Kansas for a couple reasons, and I'm hoping you'll get into those in terms of why he might be able to do that as a player. But the other part of it, I think, Ryan, is it gives Kansas maybe a unique pitch compared to some other people who may be trying to come in on this recruitment, because Kansas is going to have to fight to keep hold of this one through signing day.
Yeah. Well, first off, and I should have kind of teed this up during our intro, K-State fans, I'm bringing some lavender to the show because it's going to need it. This is, if you're a K-State fan that's listening to this show, this could be a little rough one for you. So I'm doing all I can here. But getting back to JJ, I mean, we came out of that Derby playoff game, again, kind of jokingly saying, like, this guy's good enough to play college receiver at certain colleges. You know, could it be in the Big 12? Yes. And that's where I'll get back to what you were referring to is, you know, he's not going to be Travis Hunter, folks. And if you're a Kansas fan, you don't want him to be Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter is one of one. And I say that in the sense of snap counts.
Yes.
You go to Pro Football Focus. On offense this year, Travis Hunter played 753 snaps. And on defense this year, Travis Hunter was credited with 776 snaps. As you said, Kevin, before the show, very few people have those kind of the lung capacity, the endurance, the health. You know what I mean? Travis did kind of get nicked up here and there over the course of his college career. Like, if you're a Kansas fan, I think in an ideal world, you really don't want JJ Dunnigan playing a whole lot of receiver. If you want to put him out there for a couple snaps a game, as a decoy, or there's, you know, a really nice situation that you think his ball skills are made for, which is what you and I love about him most, is the instincts, the ball skills, the length, then sure. But, you know, if you're playing him significant amount of snaps, and not even Travis Hunter, but even, you know, a significant chunk on offense and defense, either that's saying that JJ Dunnigan is even better than you and I think he is, or that's saying this wide receiver room in Lawrence is not very good. You know what I mean? So, you know, again, I think for me, JJ Dunnigan is a terrific get for the Kansas defense because of the fact that he can be potentially a cornerback if you need a situation that arises with a guy that you feel like he just matches up one-on-one terrific with. Otherwise, he can be a jack of all trades across the board at safety. If you want him at strong, you can put him at strong. If you want him at free, you can put him at free. He has the body and the length to really do it all. Run support, playing against the pass. We saw him against a terrific tight end in Deshaun Brame, and he can handle that. So there's just not enough that we can say, not enough we haven't already said about the player that JJ Dunnigan is. I think it is only a matter of time, Kevin, before the scouting grades figure this one out as being way under recruited. 24/7 composite still has him at about an 86, bordering on an 87, 541st nationally, and actually in the composite, 6th in the state of Kansas. Only a matter of time before that changes. And I'll throw it back to you by kind of, again, teasing on a point you've already made, which is good news is Kansas got this locked down, right? I mean, early, they got the commitment. That's big. But this is far from over. I think whether this had been K-State, whether this had been Nebraska, whether this had been Stanford, JJ Dunnigan is the type that's going to keep that phone line open. He's going to, you know, converse with whoever calls. And I think that as the offseason, as the tape starts to circulate, you get out of the transfer portal, you start to hone in on some high school guys and go back and see, is there anybody we haven't offered yet that maybe we'd like to offer? I think there's going to be a lot of blue chip programs that are going to hear about JJ's performance down at the Under Armour game, that are going to pop in his junior tape and go, you know, is Kansas really that intimidating to us? Like, can we think we can go in and pluck this one out if we're Michigan, if we're Florida, if we're USC? They're going to kind of be confident about that, like they would even if it was K-State. And so I don't think this thing is over yet. And I feel like Kansas could be in for kind of a Lincoln Cure type recruitment of just doing whatever they can to hang on. But again, good news is, as we saw with Lincoln, you did enough to immediately catch his verbal commitment. And that alone is a good sign if you're the Kansas Jayhawks.
I also think Kansas does so well at building and maintaining relationships. And that's an area where a lot of the guys that they lose, Ryan, are because they don't get in early enough, or they don't get enough that you're there. I mean, you're not just in it, you've got the kid in your recruiting class. I really like the staff to carry this thing on. That's another reason I like the two sides of the ball thing, because I do think that if some other schools do decide to come in and offer the quote unquote blue bloods, as you called them, is Michigan going to offer him a chance to play both ways? It's
Right.
something that, again, I think makes Kansas unique compared to some of those other places. To your point too, Kansas has had guys under different staff, but they've had guys be successful going both ways. When you look at Charles Gordon, obviously we covered John Randall Jr., John Randall Sr. at Kansas. People forget this now, was playing running back and defensive back at the same time because Kansas's defensive backs were so poor. Charles Gordon kind of did the opposite, where he started at receiver, won a cornerback spot. They said, oh my gosh, we still need a receiver, played receiver. I actually think the thing to watch from a snap count perspective, ideally, is something like what Kansas did with Aqib Talib in the Orange Bowl season. And that was a good group of wide receivers. You had Marcus Henry, who was an all Big 12 type guy. You had Des Briscoe, who's arguably the best wide receiver in Kansas football history. You had Kerry Meyer breaking in, about halfway to later in that season. And you had Dexton Fields, who's maybe the most underrated receiver in KU history, shows up on all the career charts and all of those things. And so Talib was really your fourth or fifth guy in that group, and you could bring him in to have him be dynamic for a play here or there. And the defense had to notice when he came in because of his ability there. I think that's kind of the ideal offensive situation for him. To your point, defensively, one of the things that makes him really interesting, friend of the show, Michael Swain, obviously covered Iowa State, I think when DK McDonald was there, now Kansas's defensive coordinator. Iowa State has had kind of that lanky, field safety, they call him. Does Kansas go to kind of a look like that with JJ's versatility? We've seen safeties like that be successful at Iowa State.
Yeah. And again, we talked about, with Brandon Shelby, another, tip in his cap as a recruiter to come in and help DK McDonald lock this down. But, again, a guy that we mentioned on the last show, I think, at Portland State with Deshaun Shedd from the Seattle Seahawks, Brandon Browner, Richard Sherman. These are the type of guys that I kind of see a JJ Dunnigan mold, right? And last but not least, Kevin, we've been saying it on this show. We've been ringing this bell. 2026 felt like a class that Kansas had teed up pretty well for itself. You got Jalen Mason. You've got JJ Dunnigan. JJ's connected with several others. I think they're in pretty good shape for Nate Sims. Tyron Parker is tight with JJ Dunnigan. This is shaping up to be, again, the class that Lance Leipold needed from an in-state standpoint. He really needed to hit one of these. He finally got one. We'll see who else he gets in 2026.
Well, shifting to another player with Kansas interest, who will be making his decision here soon, Maize South defensive end Hunter Higgins will be making his announcement on January 15th, choosing between a Final Four of Kansas, Nebraska, Michigan, and Wisconsin. Ryan, we've obviously watched quite a bit of film on Higgins, and we both had a chance to see him in person earlier this year in Derby as well. What stands out to you about him as a prospect?
Yeah, well, I mean, I thought he held his own, did really well in the Derby game for that half that Maize South was competing. I mean, Hunter and Maize South were competing the whole game, but Derby kind of ran away with it. He is, every bit of the kind of 6'4", 6'5"-ish, 240 that he lists himself at. So, that's a plus. I think he's really strong and stout against the run. We saw that this year in his tape, and we saw it again against Derby. I think he occupies and can anchor that outside very well. Would we like to see him get a little bit, maybe more twitch and work on a little bit more of the pass rush pursuit? Yes. And Hunter's mentioned that to us in postgame down there when we talked to him at Derby. He knows that that's an element of his game that he'd like to kind of take to the next level. But all of the kind of fundamental and technical things are there for him. And like I said, I think in the right system, he's already a pretty good fit against the run. It's just a matter of kind of continuing to developing his elements as a true pass rush threat that could take his game kind of to that next level.
We'll have our interview with Higgins here in a bit, but first, we want to tell you about our friends over at Home Field Apparel. Didn't quite get the Christmas gift that you wanted? Or did you just want to do a little post-Christmas shopping for yourself, as Ryan may have done there? Home Field is a great option, and you don't even need to leave the safety of your own home. Home Field has some great-looking vintage knit sweaters. to peruse. They've got the T-shirt that Ryan is showing off if you're watching on YouTube. And if you're anything like me, you absolutely could not go wrong with your 35th quarter zip to add to your arsenal. Kansas, Kansas State, and Missouri fans all have at least 43 items apiece to choose from. Ryan, Kansas State is actually getting up near 70 choices on Home Field. So head over to homefieldapparel.com and use the promo code link below in the description. You can get 15% off your first order. We'll be right back.
Looking for tickets for your next event? Tickets for Less is your #1 source. Save big on every purchase when you use promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com.
Welcome back to the Verbal Commitment Podcast, sponsored by Home Field Apparel. We're joined by the top-ranked defensive end in the state of Kansas for 2026, Maize South's Hunter Higgins. Hunter, thanks for swinging by the show.
Yeah, thank you guys. I've seen so many episodes, so cool to be on it. Yeah, I'm excited.
Awesome. Well, Hunter, we had a chance to talk with you after the Derby game earlier this year, and one of the things you talked with us about were some of the improvements you were trying to make this season individually. How did you feel like this year went, both from a team standpoint, but also maybe you trying to show some of that growth and put some of that stuff on tape that you felt like you worked on?
I really I am proud of our team. I think that it's tough how our schedule is set up. We definitely started out getting in the groove, and we had a little bit, you'd maybe say, easier games, and started off really hot, and then really hit the peak middle to end. And I think that with a young team, a lot of guys who didn't have that varsity time, it just mentally affected them, and it kind of shut down, and that's what was tough. So that's going to be a huge off-season thing, is like not letting games define us through the season. But still proud of the guys. We lost 20 guys, I think, the year before, and so it's not easy having that same confidence the next year. But we still had people step up, so happy with that. On my side of things, I really don't like watching my tape. I'm gonna be completely honest. I don't. I think it's too similar to my sophomore year. I didn't show the jump that I should have. I'd been struggling with some back stuff, and it was hard to be going all out the season and then also trying to recover. But still, I don't care enough, about that stuff. Like, I need to be able to just, push through that and show improvement. And I don't feel like I did. So this, I didn't even let a week go by after our last game. I was already onto the training, onto, getting back in the weight room like I was in the off season, real heavy. And, I know what jump I needed to make, and that's what I know I'm going to show that in this next year.
What jump do you want to make? Like, what do you want to show?
The speed, how I play. I think that too much times I love the technical side of the position I play, and I like, where do you put your hand here? Where do you swipe? And dipping and everything. Like, I love those details, but so many of the guys that are elite are kind of just mental, like, freaks, you know what I mean? Like, they're kind of just insane. And, I know I can tap into that, like, it's just playing a little bit more free and fast. That's what I want to show. I feel like that's what makes an elite edge rusher. So, I think it's just, when you watch my film, like, do I stand out completely different from everyone else, or do I just look like a bigger person on the field? Like, that's what I don't want. I don't want it to just say like, okay, he's staturally, he's bigger, he's probably heavier. Like, I guess it makes sense. Like, no, I play at a whole different speed than everyone else. Like, that's what I want to show.
I love the honest assessment there, Hunter. And I feel like the game will going to slow down for you because of the steps that you're taking to prepare for that. And part of that process, I wanted to ask you about. You got the offers, the initial offers from K-State and KU, first on the board in October of your sophomore year. There's some guys that don't get that type of attention until after their senior years. Kind of walk folks through kind of what it's like to shoulder that burden so early on in your high school career, and how long did it take you to kind of accept it and kind of get used to that target on your back?
I think that such a blessing of that was being able to play travel baseball growing up, and I was always like, I've always been just bigger than everyone, and so when I'm pitching, like standing way big on the mound, like everyone, I don't know, I always had that target on my back in baseball, and so I got to, travel from pretty much coast to coast with all these different teams, and that you get more of a target on your back as a team with baseball. So it's a little bit different, in my opinion, with the football side, because that's more the one guy kind of you can target. But I don't know. I think you just have to handle it. I mean, it's not to me. It's not that hard. You're gonna hear the extra comments, but like. I don't like who really cares. If you really wanted that bad, like you got to be expecting something like that. To me, it's just part of it. I don't know. It's not something I think too much about. I part of my job, I'm a defensive guy. I have to talk a little bit, so I got to be expecting them to talk back a little bit too. So, I think that's just how it goes. That's football.
I think Lincoln Kier Ryan told us one time about having like a 40-yard catch, and he's getting up, and the guy's like, D1 my ass. Yard catch here. What are you saying to me? But it seems like some of that stuff can get a little wild sometimes.
Oh yeah, no, I'll get 2 levels of blocking and the QB booting the other way, and I get him like, good block, hey, what D1? What are you talking about? And I'm like, I don't know if Aaron Donald is making that play, but it's not even close. But no, it's funny. You sometimes, just laugh about it. Gotta prove it the next play. Always, I don't. It's just part of it. Yeah.
Well, Hunter, one of the reasons that obviously we wanted you on the show is you've announced you're making your decision coming up here, January 15th at Mays South. You said anybody wants to come out is welcome to do so.
Yeah.
You've got a Final Four schools that you're deciding between. I think it's Kansas, Nebraska, Michigan, Wisconsin. Can you tell us a little bit about kind of each finalist and why they stood out to you? We'll start off and go Kansas and then and knock them out one by one. What stands out to you about Kansas?
I think what stands out about them is the excitement for change and kind of, I don't know, bringing back like I maybe not very correct, but the Mangino era where they were just kind of like a smash mouth team. I know stuff happened with that, but they were a very successful team. And I always love like the underdog type stories where you're wanting that turnaround. And I think that's one of the biggest sells you can have with KU is like be a part of something like that. They have conference edge guys for the past 4 years, all conference. It's a really cool town. There's a lot of good things about it. But I think the biggest selling point is being a part of what they're building there.
Then is Nebraska hitting you with kind of a similar pitch? Because obviously Nebraska used to be a national power. They didn't go to a bowl game for quite a while, made it back to a bowl game this year, but obviously Matt Rule and that group, they're in the process of building something as well.
I would say it's similar. I would say it's a little bit different. They seem, I think with the magnitude, it's a little bit different because you've seen how they're already done with everything as far as like facilities and, I think they've been able to do a good job with their turnaround, and I feel like I mean, they're headed in the right direction. So it's a little bit less of that. They I think they're a solid team right now, you know. So is Kansas, but I think that both teams, it's like a few games, you know, you're like they win those games, they're towards the top of their conference. So it is similar. Something about it is a little bit different with Nebraska, but I think they're trying to almost put that to the side, like not even focus on that too much and just act like the normal recruiting route. They just don't target that as much to me. But I mean, I think they're an elite program, you know, like they've invested a ton and their fans are obviously so bought in. So, yeah, I mean, both kind of similar. I agree.
How about Michigan? What jumps out to you with Michigan?
Yeah, and I wanted to throw in too the fact that Michigan's head coach is Sharon Moore, a guy from not too far from your neck of the woods.
Right. Yeah. I had a super good visit with them when I was able to make a round trip and actually be in Ann Arbor, and that's the first thing he said to me. It was like, "We're getting Kansas kids. Like that's what we're doing. I'm never gonna miss out on the good ones from Kansas." And no, he's a cool dude. And Espo is a really cool guy too. Like you would not think he's a DN coach. You would think he's, you know, just I don't know, like maybe a comedian. I don't know. He's just a funny dude. Like he's good to talk to, but he knows ball for sure. Like he's around really good players and makes them even better. I mean, really rich history, obviously, coming off a national championship. So, I mean, there's a lot of positives with them. The first thing people would say to me, like at my school, is that they are that rich in history, like the playing time or whatever. And I mean, I'm gonna have to go compete wherever I go. So, I don't. I see them as another school, not like they're getting all these 5-star guys, whatever. Like, gonna be hard to get a spot or ever play there. Like, I put them in my top 4 for a reason, and I mean, I'm gonna have to go and compete wherever I go. So,
how about Wisconsin rounding out the top 4? Last but not least.
yeah, I mean, I think their NFL production is just insane at my position. I mean, I know their last season wasn't what it usually is. But I had a really great visit there too. Super cool staff. And I mean, they put guys in the league at that position, and so I mean, very big positive there. I didn't realize how academically prestigious they are. That was another thing. So yeah, very good things with Wisconsin. They are, I mean, definitely a little bit farther, but gonna be traveling all over wherever I go anyway. So, you know, all positives with all these schools. Like they're in the top 4 for a reason.
Yeah, you always hear some interesting, good things, I guess, depending on how extracurricular you want to get with the town of Madison, right? Pretty cool scene up there.
It is awesome. Yeah, it really is. I think they did a good job with whoever was taking us on the little drive. They kind of knew which roads to take and everything. Yeah, I mean, between the 2 bodies of water and yeah, the capital being there, and it just feels like they put everything that a town could have in that town. So yeah, very cool. Pretty unique. Like I really can't compare anything to it. You know, it's kind of its own place.
Well, Hunter, I wanted to ask you, obviously we'll have some K-State fans tuning into the show that are also interested in where you go, but obviously know that K-State is not going to be that choice. What was kind of the reasoning behind K-State being out of the top 4? I know your family's you've got some K-State lineage there. So again, maybe it just wasn't the fit for you, but I know that the K-State fans would be interested to know.
Yeah, very fair. Yeah, I mean, I grew up a K-State fan. I also had no idea about like anything else besides just watching games. You know what I mean? And so I had to come into this process very unbiased and treat every school the same, and just evaluate. And I mean, K-State is an awesome school. Like if any dude committed there, I'd be like, you're gonna succeed. You're gonna do great. It just for me wasn't exactly what I feel like is gonna make me my best. And I mean, it is tough though because they've had all conference guys. They had Andy DK drafted. But I mean, there it's very hard when you get down to the top four. It's could probably pick and choose this school over this school, and I mean, in the end, only going to choose one. And I know that there's a couple that would have come out on top anyway, over just by other things that K-State probably can't even control. You know what I mean? So, um, I hate that the top four is a big deal because you see K-State not involved, but in the end, I'm only going to pick one anyway. So 3 of the schools on the top four, you know what I mean, aren't even gonna. It's going to be kind of done after that. So, yeah, I mean, still an awesome school. Like I have all good things to say about them.
So you said it's only going to be one anyway. Do you know? We're not asking you to announce, but do you know at this point right now? Do you know which school it is, or is it something where, hey, I'm carrying this up until decision day? I've got a couple I'm deciding between. Like, where are you at in your decision making process?
Yeah, I do know. I did want to have that before I announced any date because I didn't want to be like trying to guess by that time. Like I hope by this time I get it. So I don't know. I'm doing this for the first time. I thought that made the most sense. And I feel good about it. It's I mean still such a hard thing though. Like it especially now, like you can have very easy bait from other schools, you know what I mean? It's very easy to think something and then kind of get shown a different direction, and that looks good and that looks good, so making the decision and being firm in it is something I want to do. I don't want to be the guy who flips. I hate that stuff because I don't want people to be all bought in on me, and I want to be sure of it. Kind of like you said though, me having that advantage since October of my sophomore year. I mean, I think this is a pretty normal timeline that people get to make a decision. So, while it might look early compared to signing day, I still feel like I've thought through and I've done what I need to feel confident about my decision.
You might have just teed up the question that I was going to ask you with what you were saying there at the end, which is, I think the way recruiting is nowadays, everything gets started, it seems like, so early. So in our minds, it's like, well, we see Hunter Higgins wanting to commit in January and JJ Dunnigan and Braden Wilmus and all these guys that are kind of coming off the board, quote, early.
Yeah.
But, in your mind, you've been at this for, going on a year and a half, maybe 2 years. So
Yeah.
how much of it was, I just kind of know and I want to be done? And how much of it is, I'd like to be able to also kind of put some guys around me at whatever school I choose?
I think more than anything for me, I tend to, and me and my dad are the same with this. I mean, get it from him, but like to be very detailed with decisions like this. And so like he made me a spreadsheet, like pointed, weighted things like what is more important than the other. And that kind of puts it in front of you like, okay, well, if I really am going off of this, like if academics is up here and it's weighted, like this school actually moves up and I didn't even know. And so I look at that stuff, but I think you can get so detailed that you lose track of what's right in front of you. And so I think recently before I announced the commitment, I just had to kind of like step back and look at the obvious things that that are, I mean, not the what ifs, you know, because like there's too many what ifs, and I knew that if I looked at those, that it would complicate stuff so bad. So, uh, um, I had to look at what's in front of me, look who had been, you know, kind of just the right place for me. I don't know. It was a feeling, and I think that really is a term that people throw out that is a true one. Is like when you know, you know. I do think it is right. I don't think that means that, you know, when you visit that school, it might be how it was for me, like a random day, and I'm just looking through all of them, and I'm like, why has this not hit me yet? You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
it's kind of just, it is that feeling. And I do think it's something you should sit on though, not, not right away jump on it. Cause I think, sometimes the emotions can sway you especially after visits. I think don't, don't jump on something right after a visit. I think letting it sit a little bit, comparing it to the other places, waited like I did. mm, I mean, I feel good about my decision. I really do. So that's how I went about it. But yeah, again, not really anything rushed. I feel like I took my time and I made the right decision.
All right, Ryan, do we have some rapid
Well,
fire questions here?
Let's get into some rapid fire, completely off the cuff. We're just going to fire away on her. Okay, so it's kind of that holiday season. So, did we just pass your favorite holiday, or if not, what is your favorite holiday of the year?
Ooh, it is Christmas. I will say that. Yeah.
Okay,
Christmas
okay.
is
What was the best Christmas gift that you got this year then?
You're gonna get him in trouble because you got him a gift, and they're like, "Oh, this is definitely his best gift." And
the gifts I gave out.
well, you are gonna need much media training when you get to the next level, my friend.
Well thought. Well, Kevin and I are big eatery guys. So, what's the go-to spot to hit in the Wichita area?
Okay. Yeah, I think it is River City Brewing Company. It's kind of downtown. It's just a cool layout. Um, Probably not technically the best food. I mean, it is good. It really is. They got a lot of different stuff, but it's a cool vibe. They have garage doors that open up and look out um on these kind of terraces and stuff. It's just, yeah, downtown Wichita. It's kind of cool.
So what's the play? What's the food order there?
Well, they took it away last time I went. They didn't have it. Yeah, I had this mac and cheese, and it had like different like pulled pork in it. It was really good, but settled for the buffalo mac. It was all right. It was great.
Settled. We settled. All right. I'm going to test your NFL knowledge here a little bit, but it's not trivia. But we'll see how far back your quote classic goes. Your favorite current pass rusher, and I'm going to call it your favorite kind of classic pass rusher.
Current, you're
Yeah.
saying?
Mhm.
I mean, I really think TJ Watt for just like my technical side of things. Like he seems like such a detailed guy, but he's also nasty. Like his celebration, he just gets up and it goes crazy, you know. Like that's kind of a pinnacle D end, even though he's kind of an outside backer, but he he's the guy I watch. Yeah.
Is there a classic kind of a retro name that you go back on YouTube and fire up the highlights of ever?
I was looking at, because I said TJ Watt, and I was looking at like sack leaders and everything recently, and I saw Strahan was at the top, like with stuff, and I'm not gonna lie, I go back and watch his stuff, and I'm like, is this really gonna work on like Trent Williams? Like really, like I don't know. To me, I they're still very talented guys, like, but I do watch the current guys. I think that they've just the game's evolved. Like they're not doing the same moves where you're just shucking the dude all his, you know what I mean? I don't know, it's different. It's a little bit more finesse and cool stuff now. So I tend to like that stuff more.
The old heads are yelling at their earphones, right? But you're okay, Hunter. Let's get you out of here on this one. You can just give me the winner, or you can give me the game and the winner. But who's your pick in the Super Bowl?
I don't even watch NFL that much. I watch highlights. I watch college football so much. So, um,
Well, why don't we say that? Why don't we say that? Because we as we record here today, we now know the semifinals. How about your pick for the college champion? Who's your prediction? We've got Penn State and Notre Dame on one side, and we've got Ohio State and Texas on the other.
yeah, I think it'll be what I want it to be is an Ohio State Notre Dame and Ohio State to win. I think that's what. Yeah, I think that they just had a little fluke game with Michigan. Not really what they're capable of. What they just showed against Oregon was insane. So, I think they'll take it. Yeah.
Real quick, I do know that one of your first loves is baseball. You come by it honestly. Your dad loves baseball.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite baseball player right now?
I want to say Salvador Perez. Like that's my since I've been little. I mean, I'm gonna say that because he's still good. He's still putting up good numbers, and he kind of just a swaggy player, real nice dude. Like I've always liked him.
Can't go wrong with Salvi.
Yeah, I'm gonna go wrong with Salvi. Hunter, thanks again for joining us, and thanks to all of you for watching and listening to the Verbal Commitment podcast here on KCSN. If you like what you've seen or heard, subscribe, like, or hit us with a 5-star rating. And until next time, we'll see you on the trail, and take care.